Okay, so on December 4th and 5th, pretty much all eyes are on New Delhi. Vladimir Putin is in India for a really high-stakes summit with Narendra Modi. And get this, it's his first visit since the Ukraine war kicked off. What these two talk about could send ripples all the way to Washington, Beijing, and Brussels. Because believe me, this meeting is about a whole lot more than just handshakes.
And this quote, man, it just nails it. It perfectly frames the whole situation. You know, the handshakes, the photo ops, that's all a public performance. But behind the curtain, there's a much more desperate drama playing out. This is not about diplomatic pleasantries. For both of these leaders, this is about pure geopolitical survival.
So that brings us to the big question, right? After years of pretty limited contact, why this summit and why now of all times? Well, the timing is everything. Putin is isolated, he's sanctioned, and he's desperate for options. And Modi, he's trying to navigate this incredibly fractured world that's basically forcing everyone to pick a side. This meeting is their answer to all of that immense pressure. To really understand what's at stake here, we have to look at this for what it is: geopolitical theater. Seriously, each leader is playing a critical role, and you can bet they each have a very, very specific audience in mind. Just look at their starting positions. It tells you so much. Russia comes to the table isolated and heavily, heavily reliant on China, a relationship that's both a lifeline and, let's be honest, a leash. India, on the other hand, is in this totally unique spot. They're all about strategic autonomy. What's that mean? Well, they talk to everyone, but they don't pledge allegiance to anyone. This fundamental imbalance is exactly what makes this whole meeting so fascinating. Now, the official story you're going to hear is all about energy cooperation and new trade corridors. But that's just the subtitles. The real movie, the one with all the action, is playing out behind closed doors. And that's where they're talking about the really hard stuff. How do you keep trading weapons and oil under the crushing weight of Western sanctions? And of course, the giant unspoken issue in the room, China.
Okay, so let's dig into the first pillar of this relationship, and it's probably the most critical one: defense. This partnership has been essential for decades, but right now, it's facing some incredible complications.
So what kind of hardware are we talking about here? Well, the S-400 air defense system is a huge deal. Even with delivery delays, it's proven so effective that India is reportedly looking to buy 5 times more squadrons. But the conversation is going way beyond that. They're starting formal talks on the next-gen S-500, and Russia is even pitching its Su-57 stealth fighter, complete with licensed production. Moscow's goal? It's pretty simple: keep India locked into its defense ecosystem for the long, long haul.
Check this out. Just one number tells you so much about how deep their cooperation goes. Mach 8. That's the target speed for the BrahMos 2, a hypersonic missile they are developing together. We're talking nearly 3 times faster than the current version. That is a massive leap in capability that gives both countries a serious edge in a world where speed is literally everything.
All right, so if defense is the fortress, then energy is the lifeline. Since 2022, cheap Russian oil has been absolutely crucial for India's economy. But figuring out how to pay for it under a global sanctions regime, that has become a massive strategic challenge. And the scale of this trade, it's just staggering. At its peak, Russia was supplying up to 40% of India's crude oil. For Russia, that's cash flow that doesn't depend on China. For India, it's a critical way to keep inflation in check. So yeah, this trade has become the economic bedrock of their relationship, but it's also the #1 target of Western pressure. But that leads to a huge question, right? How do you actually keep that trade alive when you're under such intense sanctions? The answer is a strategy they call financial insulation. It's a deliberate plan to build a kind of parallel financial universe, one that operates outside the direct control of the US dollar and Western banking networks. So here's how they're pulling it off. It's actually a pretty clever 3-step dance. Step 1, India pays for all that Russian oil using its own currency, rupees. Step 2, Russia ends up with a massive pile of rupees in Indian banks that it can't really use anywhere else. So step 3, India comes up with a solution. Russia can invest that surplus directly back into the Indian economy. We're talking government bonds, stocks, infrastructure. They're turning a trade problem into an investment solution. It's pretty slick. And it doesn't stop there. They're building on this with a bunch of other initiatives. They're linking their own payment cards, RuPay and Mir, to basically sidestep systems like SWIFT. They're going deeper on their decades-long nuclear partnership, even looking at next-gen small modular reactors. And they're building new physical trade routes to, actually move all the stuff. every single one of these moves strengthens that financial insulation.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. This summit isn't just about India and Russia. The decisions being made in Delhi are going to send shockwaves across the entire global chessboard. And this is the trilemma, the strategic knife edge that India is on. Think about it. If India tilts fully to the west, it just pushes an already isolated Russia even deeper into China's arms. If it tilts too far towards Moscow, it totally undermines its critical partnerships in the Indo-Pacific with countries like the US and Japan. But, and this is the big one, if it actually pulls it off, if it refuses to tilt at all, it proves that the old Cold War idea of rigid blocs is officially dead.
So that brings us to the final and most crucial question of all. Is this summit just about India giving Russia its last escape route from being totally dependent on China? Or is it about something much, much bigger? Is this the moment that India proves that real power in this new era doesn't come from choosing an ally, but from having the strength and the clout to make every single major power compete for your partnership? The answer to that question is going to help define the next decade of world politics.